Welcome. You're listening to Sports Econ 101, the show where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Russell Jackman, and hopefully Vern will join us in the next segment. At each commercial break, we're going to ask a sports trivia question, and you can listen to Sports Econ 101 on iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Sports Byline USA, and CRN, as well as hundreds of stations across the U.S. In fact, we just added some in Atlanta and Philadelphia, all around the country. I guess we're getting kind of popular there. Today's trivia.
We're spreading faster than the coronavirus.
That's a good thing, yes. And we're going to be, let's see here. We're going to be talking baseball. I got some trivia questions for you there. And let's see, what are we going to talk about? Okay, I got a hard one, and a hard one. Uh-oh.
Oh, well, that's always good news.
Yeah, but you're a big baseball fan, aren't you?
But we're not talking about cricket or curling, so I think I'm all right. But if we're talking about baseball from the 1800s, then I'm not doing too
well. None from the 1800s.
Okay, good.
Good. But you're a big baseball fan, though.
Well, you know, of the sports, I got to be honest with you. I got to be God's honest with you, which is that my greatest spread of knowledge is with obviously pro wrestling, but then basketball, NBA is my level's encyclopedic. Football is pretty good, and baseball, I really am just a Giants fan.
Gotcha.
My knowledge of baseball isn't great, except when it comes to the Giants. I never watched the American League. I hate the American League for its the way that they deal with
DH. It's just a DH.
Designated hitter role. I can go for hours on how I hate the DH. So I'm not as great with the baseball trivia as I am with.
All right. It's going to be kind of fun. We got a couple of things to talk about the SEC wanting to start football in the fall. A judge rules in favor of U.S. Soccer Federation against the women's situation, we'll call it. And Mike Tyson at age 53 may be making a comeback. All right. This segment of Sports Econ 101 is sponsored by Pacific Private Money, still providing mortgage investments that are currently yielding over 7.5%, secured by real estate. It doesn't get any more conservative than that. Check them out at pacificprivatemoney.com. Stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Russell Jackman. Vern Glenn will be with us, I am sure of it. Russell, off air, you were asking me or talking to me about how much sports is going to cost, or how much it's going to cost sports by not having it, this year or just a short period until it comes back?
Yeah, probably, for the remainder of this year for a lot, what we've missed already and what we're likely to miss, even if they're able to put sports together in some kind of a half-assed way. And
what was that figure?
It was they were saying on ESPN that the estimated cost was going to be $20 billion to the United States.
It's funny because it still seems like it should be more than that. When you consider all the sports that are
$20 billion is a lot of money. That's
true.
That's some nations' budgets, are $20 billion. So it's a lot, and it's a lot of money that's going out the door that is not coming back.
Yeah, but how big is the NFL just by itself?
Gosh, I don't even know what the total income is for the NFL, but I think they're thinking that the NFL probably will be playing games sometime.
Oh, okay, so maybe that $20 billion does not include the.
No, it's probably just from the missed baseball games, missed hockey games, missed NBA games.
NBA, yeah. So are they? I haven't read the report, but I don't know if they're talking about loss of fans in the stands, loss of players' income. I guess it's.
I think that was going to be what cities and and what the local municipalities are going to lose out of the money that's generated by sports and attendance and travel and everything else that goes along with it.
Well, wasn't this the first year they didn't have the Kentucky Derby?
Yeah. Well, it's the first year they haven't had the NCAA tournament since World War II.
Yeah, but the Kentucky Derby's been around since 1860 something, I think. And it's funny. I don't know if you got a chance to watch the virtual Kentucky Derby. Did you see
No,
that? That was
ridiculous.
it was actually kind of fun because they had, of course, Secretariat won by a nose, and probably because it had the fastest recorded time ever of a minute 59.4 seconds. But they had it run against Seattle Slew and Affirmed, War Admiral, Citation. I mean, these you're talking like some of those go back to the.
Well, at least no horses were abused. No horses had to
That's
suffer.
true. Good
So,
point.
no, I'm more for a digital version of horse racing than I am, say like the NBA or something like that.
Yeah, I know. I can't get into it. I thought, hey, I heard that ding. Does that mean that we have Mr. Vern Glenn on the phone?
We do. At least we have his name
We
showing
have his
up.
name. I'm sure he'll pop in as soon as he gets his camera and audio set up. There he is.
Here we go.
The handsome Mr. Vern Glenn. We started recording a few minutes earlier, so we're in our second segment now.
Okay.
I was asking.
I'm joining you already in progress.
All right. And now I see that you're in yet another different dimension. First it was outside, then it was inside, and now it's inside, but from a different angle. Is that the home office?
Well, again, I try to mix it up. I got to keep the viewers guessing.
That's right.
Where is he going to be this time?
And what hat is he going to wear?
That's right. And this time it's facing forward. I like that. You look better when it faces forward.
You got it.
I was asking Russell if he had a chance to see the virtual Kentucky Derby. Did you watch that at all? It was actually kind of.
I skipped that and decided to watch the Arkansas Derby instead.
The Arkansas Derby. Okay.
Yeah, the Arkansas Derby ran on Saturday. Arkansas, that's another one of these high grade stakes where you earn points for the Kentucky Derby. There were two races that day. Both were Bob Baffert horses, and it was actual highlights of an actual race, of which I voiced over on our newscast on Saturday night.
Well,
I was very excited about that.
That is really fun. Well, go ahead. I was going to say this virtual Kentucky Derby was kind of fun because Secretariat nosed out Citation, Seattle Slew, Affirmed, War Admiral, and some other, Pharaoh and all these other ones. It's kind of fun. They had all these famous horses from the last, almost 100 years.
Oh, I saw a clip of it. I just chose to deal in reality by the nature of my job instead of fantasy.
Of course. And like I told you last week, I finally caught up with all the Last Dance shows. Yes.
Did you watch that Sunday?
I watched, whatever the last, I guess 5 and 6, right?
Yes, 5 and 6.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I am all caught up, and I am really glued in. I really like it. It's very poignant, and you see all these angles that you never really knew about.
You almost forget, as far as the takeaways from this. You always forget just how much of a spotlight Michael Jordan was dead. When he walked out of his apartment, condo, hotel room, house, he was on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he belonged to everybody, and you just can't accommodate everybody. I mean, did you see how he filled the Atlanta Dome? 54,000 people for a basketball game, all to see him.
Yeah, just because it was his last time playing there.
And you also realize that the grudges between him and Isaiah Thomas have not gone anywhere over the years. Though Michael Jordan doesn't hate too many people, but he clearly still hates Isaiah Thomas.
And it's funny because you look at Isaiah, and he's just got that beautiful smile. He just seems like the nicest guy. I don't know.
He seems like the fakest guy. He seems like the kind of guys that in the schoolyard would, punch you in the back of the head, and then you'd turn around and say, "Who punched me in the back of the head?" And he would just be whistling and looking up, at the sky.
Okay, no, I could see that angle. And it's funny because, like you said, when Jordan, he is always on. What's amazing is how he could deal with all that pressure and then play the game at the level that he did. I mean, it's got to be exhausting having all of that attention all the time. and you always have to kind of watch your P's and Q's.
And he never melted down. Yeah, no,
No.
in an interview, he never broke into epithets or started blaming other people for problems that happened in the games even when he did lose, in the mid '80s and wasn't the champion. He always put it on himself. He didn't say, "Oh, our coaching sucked," or
refs.
or blame the refs or anything like that. He always was very reserved. And my friend who I watch it with, we simulcast it. He's in Sacramento and I'm here. We actually watch it together on the phone. So we simulcast it together. And he said, he was just, we were both amazed at Jordan's unflappability.
Yeah.
And the ability that he always knew the right thing to say, when he was in front of the cameras.
Well, it's kind of funny.
I love the line he had when he was asked to not really go political, but he was asking about the backing of a certain Democrat, and he just came out and went, well, Republicans buy Nike shoes too.
They do. I thought that was very what's the word? Discretionary. Very discretion. Okay, first trivia question. We're talking baseball here. Only 2 cities in the 1970s received an existing franchise that moved from another city. The city of Arlington in Texas received the Washington Senators in 1972. Which city was the only other recipient in the decade? All right.
In which decade?
1970, in the 1970s. So from 1970 to 1970. Excuse me. There was only one other franchise that moved from another city. All right. So it's not an expansion team. Just moved from another city. So we want to know which team was that? Talking baseball here. And if you can tell us where their franchise came from, that's also a bonus. All right. Stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown here along with Vern Glenn and Russell Jackman. First trivia question was, only 2 cities in the 1970s received an existing franchise that moved from another city. The city of Arlington in Texas received the Washington Senators in 1972. Which city was the only other recipient in the decade?
Seattle?
No, but it's interesting because they came from the Seattle. What was the only in 1969? Seattle had a team for a very short time. 1 year. What was it? The Pilots.
Was it the Seattle Pilots?
Yes, that's right. And then where did they move to? What did they become?
Where did the Seattle Pilots move to and become?
Yeah. 5.
Montreal?
4. No. The Milwaukee Brewers, 1970.
Oh, I thought the Brewers were around a lot longer than the 70s.
I know. Well, there might have been a Milwaukee Brewers team like in the.
Yeah. There were the Milwaukee Braves, and the Milwaukee Braves moved to Atlanta, became the Atlanta Braves.
But there was another Brewers team
with Milwaukee and moved the franchise to Atlanta.
Yeah, I don't remember. I have to look it up to figure out what there was a Brewers team many years ago. Could have been in like the early 1800s, right? So what do you guys think about Mike Tyson coming back? Well, I don't know if he's coming back, but it says he's going to fight at age 53 for charity. Kind of reminds me of George Foreman.
I think it's ludicrous.
You think it's ludicrous?
I think he'll sell some tickets based on just based on the curiosity. I think he'll sell some tickets, but people expecting Iron Mike might get soft Mike instead, so to speak.
I would strongly suggest any way that his opponent wear earmuffs.
Yeah. The old Evander Holyfield issue, right?
Yeah.
Right.
What?
But you know what? In his day, Mike Tyson was the man. In his day, he was the man.
Yeah.
I mean, if you lasted longer than 3 rounds, it was like a win for the opponent.
I still think, as great as Marciano was with being undefeated and all that, if you looked at each person in their heyday, I would take Tyson against anybody. I would.
Even Jack Johnson. Wow.
It's funny. Jack, you have to go back to like 1910 or something for Jack Johnson, and then and Sullivan and Corbett and those guys before, bare knuckle fighting and stuff. So it's kind of hard because I don't know if there's enough footage about Jack Johnson to except for the movie The Great White Hope with
there actually is a lot of footage of Jack Johnson.
Is there?
In those days, there was no limit on the number of rounds to go.
Yeah.
I mean, you fought until you could not go anymore. I mean, there's all kinds of tales of round 27
or 100. I've heard
and there's
100.
But nobody would be. I still think Mike Tyson, even in his prime, could stop Muhammad Ali.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I agree.
Had technique. Muhammad Ali had the talent to avoid being hit by a guy like Tyson repeatedly. A lot of I mean, come on, keep in mind that a number of guys that Tyson fought were really the equivalent of tin cans. They were really very unskilled boxers.
Well, wait a minute. What about Buster Douglas? Oh yeah, that's right. He lost against him.
Exactly, and that some of them were purposely thrown in the ring. Like Randall Tex Cobb, that had no business. I mean, how long do you think a guy like Tex Cobb would have lasted against Muhammad Ali?
Well, that's a good point because it's hard to see when you're going up against a bruiser like Tyson, and you don't know how good the opponent is. All you see is Tyson just beat the crap out of him. I don't know. I might take Clubber Lang against.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Mr. T from well, and also we just lost Ken Norton Sr.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, and I feel bad for his son, Ken Norton Jr., who I got to know when he played linebacker for the San Francisco 49ers, and then later on was a linebackers coach for USC, and then he was on Pete Carroll's staff as linebackers coach there. So I feel real bad. Heart goes out to the Norton family for that.
Yeah, I loved Ken Norton as a boxer.
But apparently Ken Norton Sr. wasn't a really nice guy to his son.
That's what I've heard. Yeah.
Yeah, he was.
Well, they fell out of favor when Ken Norton Jr. Chose to marry a young lady that's of a different complexion, and that's where the great divide happened.
Interesting. Okay.
And then also, while we're on the memorial circuit, let's have a moment to talk about Don Shula.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, isn't that something? Yeah. But hey, good long life, 90 years old.
Yeah.
Died at his home, natural causes, not COVID related. And my earliest memory of Don Shula is when he was head coach of the Baltimore Colts. Don't forget, he was the head coach in Super Bowl III of the Colts. They were 18-point favorites to beat the Jets, and they didn't win that one. And then Don left, and then he took over the Dolphins, and the rest is history. Undefeated, 17-0, 1972 season and all. But Don was the man.
I always wanted to eat at the steakhouse. He had some.
I never did.
Yeah, that was an unfortunate bucket list item I never got to take advantage of.
Well, I'm sure it's still around though, right?
I'm not sure, but he has some kind of crazy steak challenge where you got to eat like a 48-ounce steak in like 10 minutes or something like that.
4 pounds of steak.
Yeah.
That'll make you gain like 10 pounds,
Like
Why is it like that? You eat a 5-pound bag, 5-pound See's candy, and you gain 10 pounds. I don't understand the metabolism of that.
Well, because you're sitting in your butt the whole time, and
yeah, that's what it
decides, hey, you're not going anywhere fast, so we'll just put some pounds on there. But my real recollection about Don is the time that he spent on Inside the NFL on the HBO show, and he really was able to share a lot of his knowledge as a coach with the viewers, and I always look forward to his input on that show, and he was a really great character for there. I mean, he
seemed like a decent guy too.
Yeah, when the Niners beat him in '85 and stopped Shula and Marino from winning, I think that's sort of where the mystique of Shula sort of started, getting a little bit less godlike, because he was so. He had that 72 Dolphin team.
Yeah, but he was, if I remember correctly, he was a little frustrated with that because the field was wet and it was almost like a home Super Bowl because they played in Stanford, and the 49ers were in it, and it's a little bit too close to home. So I remember him sort of complaining about that.
That's pure luck of the draw, and it's the
Yeah.
only time that a team has had a home field advantage in the Super Bowl.
Well, don't you think he had a legitimate beef? I mean, I think so.
Yeah, I mean,
where the Super Bowl is going to wind up being. I mean, what the Niners weren't guaranteed to be in the Super Bowl. It just,
and the thing is, there's so many
they
people.
were 15-1 though.
Yeah, true. But when you go to a generic Super Bowl, how many people are coming from outside the area because they want to root for their team? I mean, I was a big Miami Dolphins fan in the early 70s before they, actually I was very depressed when they lost to Dallas. Was I think 17-3 in Super Bowl VI.
But think about how weird it is to have the Super Bowl at Stanford. I mean, we think of all these Super Bowl cities that are basically custom made to have the Super Bowl, like New
Orleans or
and San Diego and Miami and stuff like that. You're thinking Stanford, it's not even that great of a stadium. Now it's really being used. The Super Bowl is being used as a way to reward cities for building new stadiums. That's kind of the you build a new stadium, you upgrade your stadium, we'll give you the Super Bowl.
Field of Dreams, build it, they will come, right? Of course, they'd come anyway because it's Super Bowl. Yeah, but wasn't it a few years ago? Didn't they have it like New Jersey just to kind of have a...
Yeah, New York. Yeah, they want to prove a point. They did one in Minnesota, too.
Yeah, Giant Stadium, the Meadowlands, yeah.
I'm trying to remember who was in that. It was probably the Patriots.
Yeah, I think wasn't that the Patriots-Eagles game?
Well,
Patriots-Eagles? With
I don't remember.
With Terrell Owens on the team?
Atlanta. It could have been Patriots versus Atlanta.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's a warm weather team like Atlanta. So the SEC wants to start playing football in the fall, whether or not other conferences play. It's like, how would that work?
Well, that would ruin your non-conference schedule if no other conferences decided to play. Where did you is that fact? Is that a quote?
Yeah, it's a fact that they want to play.
Oh, they want to. Okay, all right. Yeah,
I don't know how that. I never saw it to that.
I'm one of those guys. I have to see it from the commissioner, like to look at me in the eye and go, "Hey, we are going to play, and this is it, and we have been approved." Once I hear those things, then I'll believe it.
Yeah, that one's totally different. Okay, here's our second trivia question here. Jackie Robinson of the Brooklyn Dodgers was the first African-American to break the color barrier in modern-day baseball. Which U.S. politician's campaign did Robinson work for after he retired from baseball? Kind of interesting,
Okay.
I can already tell you I have no idea.
Okay.
Spoiler alert. I have no idea.
Spoiler alert on that one? All right. So again, basically, after Jackie Robinson retired, which U.S. politician's campaign did Robinson work for after he retired? And it's different than a politician who endorsed with advertising and money. So we're talking two different politicians on that. That's kind of the second part of that question. But basically, after he retired from baseball, which U.S. politician's campaign did Robinson work for after he retired? Stay with us. Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101 one more time. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Vern Glenn and Russell Jackman. Second trivia question. Jackie Robinson of the Brooklyn Dodgers was the first African-American to break the color barrier in modern-day baseball. Before that, it was, they had pictures of Fleetwood Walker in the 1800s playing baseball, but we're talking about modern baseball. Okay, so here's a trivia question. Which U.S. politician's campaign did Robinson work for after he retired from baseball?
I'll say Eisenhower.
Was it Senator Barry Goldwater?
Yes.
Was it him?
It was. Very good. Very Goldwater. So it's kind of interesting. He actually endorsed Nixon with advertising and money. He worked hard, but he worked for the 1964 Goldwater campaign. Wow, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Yeah, very, very good. Okay, so question for you guys, or just a point here. So a judge rules in favor of U.S. Soccer Federation against the USWNT's fight for equal pay. All right.
That was very disappointing. Throwing that out, that was very, very, even members of the men's soccer team spoke out and said, "Well, that is just, it was just wrong, just wrong."
So question is, how does it come down to strictly the economics of it versus a sexist, macho type thing? I mean, because if a lot of people are willing to go to a women's soccer team as much as men's, then I got to think that it's going to be equal. The ticket sales will be the same and endorsements will be the same. I think it's more just strictly economics driven rather than a woman can't get paid as much as a man. I mean,
right.
I mean, you have, attorneys. There are women attorneys making $500 an hour. They're really good attorneys. Doesn't matter whether they're a man or woman. It's probably the same thing with basketball too. The WNBA just doesn't match up with how exciting. Well, I take that back because I've definitely seen some highlights where WNBA has got some very, very exciting highlights. Okay, but listen, I used to coach girls softball, and those games would get really exciting, but nobody's willing to pay the ticket prices, for that than they would for the Giants games. So, how do you guys kind of look at that whole thing about the equal pay versus the economics of what the fans want to see and the endorsements, et cetera?
I was more entertained by me and Mr. Jackman watching you take a stance, backpedal, and then come right back again as you put yourself on the record.
Yeah. Well,
really...
okay. Let me give you an example. This happened when I was in my 20s. I had a friend because there was a big thing about women getting equal pay. All right, and I look at it and I say, if the woman is going to do the same job as the man, of course they should get equal pay. There's no difference. Okay, but like in his example, this guy, his job was to take mail bags. He worked for the post office, and you take those big heavy mail bags and you throw them onto the truck, and that's like 98% of the job. The other job was some other small part. Okay, so all day long he's taking these heavy mail bags that I don't know if they weighed like let's say 30 pounds each. Okay, and throwing them on a truck. There was a woman who had the same exact job at the exact same time as he did, but she wasn't as strong, just physically. So she could only lift one bag at a time. So she was doing exactly half the work that he was doing, and yet they were getting paid the same amount.
Was that the judge's ruling when he slammed the gavel? That factored in his decision that just simply women just weren't as physically not gifted, but physically strong as the men. That was his reason for throwing out the case.
Well, no, wait. I'm not talking about like my friend didn't actually have a court case. He was just basically
no. I'm going back to the
soccer?
The soccer case. Yeah.
No, I don't think it had to do with that. I don't think it had to do with the fact that a woman can't kick a ball as far as a man. I mean, I don't think that was the issue.
Because if you're looking at pure economics, I mean these women, they sold out wherever they played. They won every game that put in front of them. Two straight World Cup titles. I mean, I don't think there's any more that team could do not to warrant equal pay as the men's team, which wins maybe a third of the time.
And I'm with Vern on this. When I was involved in professional wrestling, there were certainly a lot of women who were coming up and becoming wrestlers, and getting in the ring and putting the kind of effort out in the ring that you'd see from a lot of men, or sometimes more effort than you'd see from the men, because they want to prove themselves. They didn't want to look weak in front of the crowd. So I really feel like if you're generating the money that is equivalent to what a man is generating by putting butts in the seats and revenue that comes in, you're entitled to your share of that, the same that a man would.
Yeah, but I don't disagree with that. But is that the only thing? Is just the seats, or is it? endorsements. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know what else is there.
In the bottom line, isn't that what makes sports work? I mean,
Or
isn't that
television,
where
you know.
sports gets its money from?
Well, no, it's not. It's not just how many people are in the stands, right? I mean, and here's the other thing: is that are the ticket prices the same for women's soccer as they are for men?
I have no idea.
Because
I would think so.
okay, if it's the same, then that part of it is equal. But I don't.
I would think
know.
so. And then just look at the court of public opinion. Just walk around soccer fields when the fields are filled and in play. I see a lot more U.S. women's jerseys than men. How about you guys?
Yeah, no.
I'll see maybe 10 Megan Rapinoe jerseys, and then I couldn't even give you a member of the men's team whose jerseys are being pimped around.
Okay, so I could be incorrect in my assessment of how the judge was ruling. Because
I'd like to see that.
I'd like to see that. Yeah, because I was thinking it was strictly an economics thing of, well, there's let's say television rights. There just maybe aren't as many people who are interested in watch. Oh, here's a good example. How many people watch?
Oh no! Oh, are you kidding me? Those soccer ratings for the women's game through the roof.
Yeah, for the roof. I mean, for the World Cup and the final.
No. For any time the women play on national TV.
Okay.
And same with women's tennis.
I'm getting a blank stare.
Yeah, I know you're getting a blank stare because.
No, but it's the same thing with women's tennis. Women's tennis right now is far more popular than men's tennis. And if the ratings were much higher for women's tennis than for men's tennis, and if the gate admission is much higher to go see a women's match, the women should get paid more than men.
Absolutely, you're right. Okay, so I'm not disagreeing with that. I mean, is it all based on negotiation? I mean, here's a quick question: why aren't they getting paid then?
Oh, you know what? You raise an interesting point, Edward. There is a collective bargaining agreement that is in place that the women have that the men don't, and I believe the judge did look at that. At the language of that collective bargaining agreement. I do believe, I don't mean to talk out of school, I do believe that did factor in the decision, and that collective bargaining agreement runs out at the end of 2021. Now, the women's team and the lawyers, they do have some options. I think they have already appealed. I think the next court case is June 12th. So we haven't really seen the last of it, but this was definitely a turnover.
Okay, so it may be a big part of it could be from the legal standpoint of documents that were signed and all that. Yeah, because it's very frustrating. Like again, I think we talked about this last week. When we're watching The Last Dance and Scottie Pippen. Unfortunately he couldn't see into the future and he was trying to protect against himself getting hurt. So he signed a fairly long-term contract, but of a small amount of money per year. Now, 2020 hindsight, yeah, he probably would not have done that. But once he did that, do you suddenly get to go, well, I made a mistake? And so, like here, like collective bargaining.
Players do that all the time.
I made a mistake. I didn't really mean to do this.
You see that happen in the NFL all the time. Where guys,
I know, it shouldn't be, and it shouldn't be. It's not a man-woman thing. It's stay true to your word. If you agree to a certain price, then just do that. And then
you're going to go up to Anthony Davis and tell him that.
Do what?
You're going to walk right up to Anthony Davis and poke him in the chest. Tell him.
Yeah, that's what I got you for.
Yeah. No,
come on, Russell.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, some of these guys, he basically held, New Orleans for ransom and got his way. We see examples of where players hold out because they say they're not getting paid enough. Yeah. And in the end, they get their way or they get traded. And that's the end result.
Yeah, I know. And it's very frustrating. To get paid a fair amount of money. But again, now who's to decide what's a fair amount of money? But in my opinion, if you're getting paid millions of dollars per year, that's a fair amount of money. If you watch your expenses, you can live off that even when you retire in 3 or 4 or 5 years.
Did you hear about the rumor now that there's a possibility that LeBron would want to go to the Knicks?
Are you serious? I didn't hear that.
Yes,
Is that kind of a dysfunctional organization? Is he going to make it functional?
With the amount of money that he could get from New York, because they have such an empty salary cap and they have no stars under their, they're paying almost nobody anything right now.
Okay, but a guy like that, he's already very wealthy. Does he? It wouldn't be for the money. Go ahead, Vern.
I was just going to mention that since we're talking contracts, we should mention that Lee Steinberg, friend of the program,
yes,
went out and negotiated a contract extension for his agent, Pat Mahomes, for a lot of money.
Good, and he well deserves it. He's proven himself. You know, it's one thing if you're just kind of like coming out, but no, he's definitely proven himself. We have just a quick minute before we have to go to our third trivia question, which has to do with home runs. We'll see if you guys know about the combinations of home runs here.
Barry Bonds.
Well, he could have been potentially one of the answers. Should I just go ahead and ask the question since I can see that you're in suspenders? Okay, here's the question. I got to read this kind of carefully, right? Yeah. Regardless of how long they played together on the same team, which pair of teammates hit the most home runs in their careers combined? That make sense? So let's say
while they were teammates, which pair?
No, it doesn't matter how long they played. So if let's say for example, I'll just pick Willie Mays. Willie Mays started in 1951. Willie McCovey started in 1959. Doesn't matter the fact that they played, let's say, only 6 or 7 years, whatever it was, together. What you do is just say, well, because they were teammates, just add the number of home runs that two players.
So that actually was going to be
on the same team.
You just ruined that right there.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it was not Willie Mays and Willie McCovey.
So you're trying. Wait,
let me read it again, and maybe it'll make sense.
No, I think I got it.
Okay.
You're talking about career home runs for these two teammates.
Correct. No matter, and even if they overlapped only by one.
You're not talking. But you're not talking about the collective home runs they hit as they were teammates during that tenure. You're talking about career home
runs total. That's right. But they would have had to at least be teammates at least for 1 year, overlapping.
Okay. Right? Okay.
All right. Stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be right back with some closing comments. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Vern Glenn and Russell Jackman. Third trivia question was, regardless of how long they played together on the same team, which pair of teammates hit the most home runs in their careers combined? We already decided it was not Willie Mays and Willie McCovey.
I'm going to go with Ken Griffey Jr. and A-Rod.
Okay, now see, that could have been a good answer.
That could have been, yeah. I'm gonna guess Barry Bonds and Jeff Kent.
No, that would have been another good one. No, actually, it was Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
all right.
Two immortals.
And Gehrig hit 493, and if I add these together, I get 7-0. I get 1,207 home runs.
Wow,
that's a lot of home. And I guess they only played. Okay. Let's see. Gehrig started, I think, 1921, and Ruth was 1914, and then he got traded to the Yankees. So 15. So he was down there for 5 or 6 years before Ruth ever even, or before Gehrig even ever came on.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
All right, guys. Another fun show. A little bit of controversy, of course, always. Here's our thoughts of the day. There will always be someone who can't see your worth. Don't let it be you.
Or be the IRS.
Or be the IRS. That's right.
There will always be someone who can see your worth.
No, who cannot. There's always going to be someone who cannot see your worth. Don't let it be you who can't see your worth.
But try to pull that one off on the IRS.
All right.
Yeah, that won't work. Okay. And I prefer not to think before speaking. I like to be as surprised as everyone else by what comes out of my mouth. Ergo, what we just talked about with the women's soccer. All right, tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be discussing sports topics from a business perspective and asking more sports trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Adios, America.
Good night, America.
So long.